When I was a kid in the 80s and 90s, my grandparents used to take me and my sister with them on their caravanning holidays. Money was tight back then, and these trips with the four of us squeezed into a tiny caravan for a week are still some of my best childhood memories. It was on these holidays I discovered I liked dancing. Nothing formal, or trained, or coordinated, just me flailing about in time to the music. Somehow over the years I lost that love of dancing. That was until this 2-night cruise on MSC Virtuosa. My name's Peter, and this is how I got my groove back. My first impression of MSC Virtuosa was overwhelmingly positive. As one of MSC's largest ships, often hosting around 5,000 to 6,000 guests, its grandeur is immediately evident. The moment I stepped into the atrium, I was met with a striking display of mirrored surfaces, crystal and sparkling features that radiated a sleek, futuristic feel. Honestly, after a cocktail or two, I wouldn't be surprised if this space started to resemble Doctor Strange's mirror dimension. First things first though, I wanted to find my cabin. Virtuosa has some very fancy modern lifts. You press the button of the floor you'd like to go to, and then the screen tells you which lift you should get into to get there quickest. A brilliant system that some passengers were still confused about while we were disembarking. I jumped in and went up to deck 11 and was pleased to find that I was a short stroll down the corridor, not next to the lifts. Some people like it for ease of getting in and out, but not me. I struggle to sleep with noise, especially if noisy people are walking past all night. I was very happy with the cabin, which felt really roomy. Plenty of space to flop onto the bed. The sofa was practically a small continent, easily one of the biggest I've ever seen on a cruise ship, and folds out into an extra bed, which is great if you have a small family. Elsewhere, the space felt thoughtfully designed, with a wardrobe and drawers for me to ignore while I live out my suitcase. A dressing table that I never normally get to use when cruising with my wife, and a flat screen TV that wasn't just background noise, it had on-demand films and ship information as well. A minibar lurked temptingly within arm's reach for crazy expensive late night snacks, whilst USB charging ports and bedside lamps meant I could be fully charged and illuminated to whatever level I saw fit. The bathroom, though compact, offered a decent shower, basic toiletries and a hairdryer. There was a safe to stash my valuables away, and the adjustable air conditioning was immediately adjusted to maximum brass monkeys. After having my card scanned at the emergency muster point, I heard a loud, deep rumbling, which it soon became apparent was coming from my stomach. Not wanting to alarm the other passengers, I decided it would be best for everyone if I went and had some dinner. I had selected the Freedom Dining, which meant I could eat whenever I liked. Dinner was mature cheese fritters, followed by pork and a warm, sticky toffee pudding. What to do next? Well, there's no shortage of things going on around the ship according to the Daily Planner. However, by far the most popular activities that my fellow passengers were partaking in with gusto was drinking. I ordered a pina colada, as this is my start of the holiday drink. It was delicious and strong, which is also how I like to be described. The free show in the main theatre this evening was an ABBA tribute show. I quite like ABBA. I'm a big fan of melody, and ABBA are the masters of catchy tunes. I took my seat at the front of the theatre, ready to enjoy the performance. The first song was a slow one and performed very well. Then the second song started, and it was much more upbeat. It was then, to my horror, I saw that the performers were coming off the stage and into the crowd, pulling people up to their feet and encouraging them to dance and sing along. I was gripped with anxiety. I've not danced in years, and if they come over here and try and make me do it with a theatre full of people watching, I think I might be sick. I quickly got to my feet, but not to dance. I was getting out of there. I snuck quietly to the safety of the rear of the theatre and looked back as the performers started dancing with the other people that had been on my row. They were all enjoying themselves and no one was laughing at them though. I felt a bit silly at how I'd reacted, and sad that I hadn't just stayed and danced. I used to love dancing, and I never cared what anyone thought of me. I stuffed the bad feelings deep down, bottling them up, thus solving the problem once and for all.
Once and for all!
Even though I had missed the rest of the show in the main theatre, it wasn't the end of the night. as I'd already booked tickets for the carousel show, Alchemia, Alchemia, Alchemia. The show is about a scientist who gives a mysterious device to reach Alchemia, a hidden world where dreams and ideas become real. Apparently. The show was truly incredible and features acrobatics, magic, aerial dance, gymnastics and juggling, kind of like Cirque du Soleil doing The Greatest Showman. These types of shows are becoming quite popular on cruise ships, and it's easy to see why. It was late now and I was tired, so I hit the hay.
Early the next morning.
Today's port was Le Havre. I decided not to get off the ship as I wanted to spend more time getting a feel for the place and filming for this video and others I'm making about MSC. I didn't think anything much would be happening in this small French town anyway. I've spent a lot of time in France over the years. In fact, I met my wife whilst living and working in France, and we go skiing there quite often, so surmised my time would be better spent on board. It was later I found out that the Olympic flame had come through the town and there'd been a big party to celebrate it. Typical. My day on the ship was quite good though. The MSC Virtuosa really is massive and is one of the most high-tech I've ever cruised on. It has an enormous LED ceiling on the promenade which changes depending on the theme of the day. There's also a water park for the kids and big kids which had some amazing slides. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't the best, so I decided to swerve this particular area. The ship has a very big and modern arcade, which includes an impressive Formula 1 simulator, an area for virtual reality games, a 4D cinema, a big sports complex, and a good size area dedicated for children. The kids club was on and popular, but I wasn't allowed to film there for obvious reasons. I enjoy casinos on ship. Not poker or roulette or anything expensive. I like the cheap slot machines. They're very well designed and they know how to give you enough dopamine to keep you playing. I normally set aside about £20 that I'm willing to lose and spend a few hours over the course of the holiday eking that out. The casino here was a good size, but one side of it allowed smoking, which meant it smelt like my childhood before the smoking ban. The Sky Lounge was on the very top deck overlooking the pool. And on these types of ships, it's usually one of my favourite places to sit and have a drink and watch the world go by. Speaking of bars, there were quite a few on decks 6 and 7. The one I found easiest to get served in was the Virtuosa Bar and Lounge. This was one of the few bars that had table service, which meant the bar was usually pretty free for walk-ups. But before I could start visiting bars and casinos, it is traditional to have some breakfast. So I went to the restaurant, and as I was a solo traveller, I was seated on the same table as a family and another couple. There was a time when this would have filled me with dread, but these days I'm much more comfortable with small talk, especially on a cruise ship. The couple were in their 70s and were not having a good cruise. They were used to Cunard, so MSC with the young families and a lively atmosphere was not what they wanted. But the family that I was eating with were experienced cruisers and were having a great time. I enjoyed talking to them about the different ships and how Royal Caribbean compares to MSC. Continuing my exploration of the ship, I found the gym, which was very impressive. If you're the kind of person who likes to work out whilst on holiday, then I will shake your hand, but it's not for me. I found a full 10-pin bowling lane. Presumably every time you roll a gutter ball, you can just blame it on the ship rocking. Then I struck gold, the solarium. This was a really great pool and hot tub area, and it was in the hot tub where I spent the remainder of the morning. I put on my headphones and let myself get nice and wrinkly. Well, the sun was over the yardarm. Not actually sure what that means, but people say it a lot on cruises and it sounds nautical, so I'm sticking with it. The sun was over the yardarm, so it was time to put some miles on my pre-purchased drinks package. I drank at the Masters of the Sea bar, which is MSC's English-style pub. Then I drank at the Horizon bar at the back of the ship. Finally, I visited Rob the Robot at the futuristic Starship bar, where my drinks package wasn't valid. Thanks a bunch, Rob. This cruise was during the World Cup and it was quarter-finals day. I love football, so I watched the Spain v Germany match on the pool deck. I especially like watching football in crowds, and there were some Spanish and German passengers around us who created a wonderful atmosphere. As soon as that match finished, the next one started, but it was evening by that point and it had cooled down a lot, so I went indoors to watch it at the TV studio bar. It was quite packed in there and hard to get a seat, but that didn't matter a huge amount as I had to leave at half time to go watch the other carousel show that I'd pre-booked. Just as on the previous night, I only had a vague idea what the show was about, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I was especially impressed in this one by the body horror breakdancing. The sun was setting and the main event still left on the MSC calendar was the ship's famous white party, where the passengers are encouraged to dress in white. I have a white summery button shirt in my wardrobe, so I headed back to my cabin to get showered and changed. Upon returning to the pool deck, I could see the party was in full swing. I ordered a drink and adopted my standard position to the side, away from the action, an observer just watching other people enjoying themselves. The music was classic party tunes, the kind you've heard a million times, but the people down there didn't seem to mind, and there were a lot of them, every kind of person, all ages and dispositions, and that was when I noticed my foot was tapping. Maybe I should just go down there and join in.
You're too old.
Immediately came a voice from the back of my mind. I ordered another drink. About 3 songs later, I noticed this guy. He didn't care about his age. He'd thrown caution to the wind and was dancing up a storm. F*** it, I thought, and I moved down to the edge of the action. Once there, the foot tap returned, joined this time by a head bob, and before the song had finished, I was full-blown dancing, forgetting my cares and what I looked like. Dancing. I was John Travolta, I was Patrick Swayze, I was a modern example that I can't think of right now, and I was loving it. Fortunately for everyone watching this video, I was too busy dancing to record myself dancing, and as such I don't have any footage. You can thank me in the comments. Listen, I'm not going to win any dancing competitions, and I probably won't be the first person on the dance floor at a wedding anytime soon. But I am looking forward to the next time I can cut loose. I feel like I've got my groove back.